They say you fall in love 3 times in your life. The first love is when you are young. It's the idealistic love. The one that seems like the fairy tales we read as children. That was my Corey. He was perfect. The second love, the hard love, teaches us lessons about who we are and what we need out of love. We think we are making different choices than our first, but in reality, we are still making choices out of the need to learn lessons. But we hang on. Our second love can become a cycle, oftentimes one we keep repeating because that's what we think, and we think somehow the ending will be different than it was before. Yet each time we try it, it somehow ends worse than before. This was my Nick. Best friends turn into a love, and oh, the lessons that was taught. We had been friends for years through high school. We lost touch for years, but one day we reconnected over the good old Facebook. Nick used to drive to Madison every weekend just to spend a couple days with me, and then would drive back to Panama first thing in the morning for work. We did long distance for a while, and then I moved back home, and we ended up moving in together. Our relationship was weird. It was great when it was great, but it was horrible when it was horrible. This was the first time I actually felt loved in years, but I didn't know how to handle it. Up until now, men have been so mean and so selfish, I didn't know what to do with his love. I was mean. I was bitter. In return, he was mean. I remember being called a whore the first time I did a boudoir shoot. We fought so bad, but the love was so strong. So weird. The second time we decided to date was worse. We would fight and say hurtful things to each other. I am as much to blame as he was. We tried to make it work. He was a huge part of my life as well as my children. He loved them so much, and they him. After 3 years of the hurtful words from both of us, the fighting, the hiding phones to piss each other off, we went through the worst phase of our relationship. Nick wrecked his car and broke his hand. He was out of work for a while. In this time, I also lost my job. We were struggling financially, which put a bigger burden on our relationship. Things got really tough, and we just got meaner. There was so much going on in each of our personal lives that we couldn't figure out how to love each other properly. We got into a huge fight while I was at the dollar store one day. Crazy how you remember the silliest details. I have no idea what we were fighting about, but for the first time ever, I was called a cunt. I came unglued. I told him to pack his things and leave. We were done. I couldn't take the toxicity anymore. I couldn't put out the negative energy anymore. I couldn't hold on to the what ifs and the potential we had any longer. We split, and it was the worst time of my life. Not only did I lose my boyfriend, I lost my best friend. I was lucky enough to have him still come around and make holidays as normal as possible for the kids, but as a couple, it was over. Until about 2 years ago, I still missed him. I still wanted to reconnect again and make things right. I still hurt so bad. However, things happen for a reason, and we both needed to grow up. We still have a pact if we're both single at the age of 40, we're just gonna marry each other. So after Nick, it's 2015. I was in the worst of my depression. I have never felt that way I felt now before. I lost Nick, my love, and my best friend. I lost my job. I was on the verge of losing my house. I started going back to church because I knew I needed something to help me. I knew I had to pull myself out of this before I was in way too far. At church, I met William. He was the drum player, and he was a smooth talker. Not long after we met, he moved in with me. He kind of just came over one day and never left. Not long after he proposed, we got married. It was dumb, I know. But I was so far down, I seen someone that could give me a way out. We ended up being together for 6 months. He was awful. He threatened on a daily to get my kids taken away from me. He used to follow me around town. When I went to college, I was a whore because I had to go to the school for a test. He refused to sign the FAFSA papers so I could get a grant. I now owe them a couple grand. He lied, he cheated, he was abusive physically and mentally. He would call my kid's dad and threaten to take them over there and get them taken away from me, even though their dad hasn't been in their life. At this point, it was a couple years. He was just horrible. So after we split up, he would stalk me. He would sit out of my house and watch me. He harassed me for a long time after. He kept creating new emails and new Facebooks and new Instagrams just to try to figure out what I was doing and talk to me. I probably have 50 Facebooks blocked that are from him, just recreating Facebooks in my name, in his name, in his parents' name, just to contact me and harass me. He tried to get me fired from my job once. Thankfully, I worked for my friend and she didn't believe any of it and she knew what was going on. He was just awful. It was so bad. So we ended up getting divorced. And he got married the day after we got divorced. He got married to a new girl who he did the same things to. They are now divorced, and God knows what he's out there doing. So after William, it was a little while. It was a long while after William. I dated a guy named Jeremiah. We weren't really serious, and it was something I knew wouldn't last, but I let it happen anyways. I met him through my brother. It didn't last long at all because he freaked out one night over Facebook. I asked him about having Facebook for previous cheating reasons, and he snapped. He told me he deleted Facebook, so it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up, and he was scrolling Facebook, and I literally just said, "I thought you deleted Facebook," and he snapped. I honestly don't even remember everything that happened. I just remember him pushing me around the kitchen and into the counters, walls, and windows. He would push me, I would push him off. It went on and on all over the kitchen, pushing me against things, scratching me up, just being abusive. So he grabbed me by the back and he pushed me into the floor. He then proceeded to get on my back and put me in a headlock. I was crying and trying so hard to breathe. I was saying, "I can't breathe," over and over again. I knew in that moment I was going to die. Something happened and he snapped out of it. He said he didn't hear me say I couldn't breathe, and I immediately got up. I made my way to the knives, and I grabbed the biggest one I could find. I charged him, and I told him he had one of 3 ways out. He could leave and never show his face again. I could call the police, and he could go to prison for the rest of his life, and I would be sure of it. Or I could kill him. I gave him 3 choices. He fought me back for a while, and tried to make it out like I was the crazy one because I had a defense mechanism now. He tried to talk me down. He chose to walk. He chose to leave. My kids were in the house that night, right upstairs. My mom was in the room next to them. I swear, if it wasn't for them and the fact that I just knew my girls would come down that stairway and the first thing they would see was a dead body, his dead body, I would have killed him. So I gave him the choices, one I probably shouldn't have given, but I did. He took it, he left, and I have not seen him since. I will be back soon with some more. Thank you guys for all your support, and I love you.